Hey,
Yes,
Mintzy,
yes.
hello, how are you?
Good morning. I am really well, thank you. Happy to be with you on this fine, grey Manchester Sunday. What's the weather like where you are?
It's exactly the same as you because we're about 3 miles away. So should we dispense with the ideas that we're some sort of in exotic counter locations?
One day, we're actually going to just come out and just say that Whaley and I have been living together for years.
Well, if we come out like that, that'll be a very happy day for me in particular. It justifies the pink all these years, and that sounds disgusting, actually.
Yeah, well, I think we'll all agree that you can't afford someone like me. It's yeah.
Well, not for more than an hour.
You'd be punching way above your station. How you doing? How was your week? You've been out and about.
I certainly would be punching above, but that's different. But anyway, yeah, I've been out and about. I'm always out and about. You know me. That's what happens when you don't like to stay around the family.
Morning. To Whaley's family who miss him dearly. Last seen him in 1997. He went out for a conference and never came back.
yeah. Get some milk.
Tell us a little bit about your week. Tell us about
can't even
things
remember.
that have been happening.
I had a lovely catch up with Damon, CEO over at Nurture Group. That was lovely. He took me to a fantastic London's. Let's take this show off into food because yet again, this is something the two Russells can never touch. So I went to Veera Swami, just down by, is it Piccadilly? The oldest restaurant I think in the UK, but definitely in London, and that was fabulous. Even better than that, that really cheeky thing that people do when the bill turns up and you've rocketed off to the toilet. I did that really successfully because I saw what sort of wine he was getting. So that's been a good week. I don't know what else I did. Where else was I?
And are you hearing any kind of the industry vibes? What's the huggy bear word on the street? What are you hearing? Are there any trends emerging at the moment?
I think ICG Tech's exciting. That's going to be breaking pretty soon, isn't it? If people aren't around that, that's exciting for, I think, both agents and prop tech companies. So they should get in touch with Ian White on there. We're obviously in on that because we're in on everything, aren't we? Nothing happens in this industry. I was just about to say we're like Epstein, but that was.
I was going to. Nothing happens in this industry without us knowing about it. I saw a picture of Simon Gates' little supplier group, and I said, "There was just right. Thank you. Exactly.
Exactly. You're finished it. Well, I'm seeing him on Thursday, so that's him out. He's done. I made him."
Mr. Influencer. No, it's good. It's great, actually. I think, look, it doesn't matter who's doing it. I think the more collaboration you can foster within different groups, the suppliers, the agents, the cross collaboration that's going on, I think it's brilliant. And long may it continue.
You always like to think you have that place to yourselves, don't you? Obviously when we started famously back in the day, there's no one else really doing it, was there? But actually, that's the nature of connections and networking, isn't it?
Matt Baldock, who it amuses me because he's got his estate agents group, right, which doesn't allow suppliers in it. Manages to show up at the suppliers group that doesn't allow estate agents in it.
Yeah.
So he can wear both sets of trousers.
Mintzy, I've got this mother nailed. So I'm gonna turn up next time, and I'm gonna say, as an agents giving board member, is he gonna try and stop me? And I don't care. His brother's a very good boxer. If he puts a hand on me, I'll sob. So that's how I'm gonna get into that group, mate.
Top of the morning to you.
Hello! Don't start doing your impression.
Can I not do that? Can I not say top of the morning? Is that not allowed?
No,
I didn't like a leprechaun.
I'm not like Prince Andrew here, but I am starting to sweat because I'm going to mispronounce it because every time I meet Regina or Regina, I get it wrong, and she always corrects me, and she's very sympathetic to me. But I've got to say, She is absolutely amazing. And we caught up with her. Well, we're going to be talking about it later, aren't we? I caught up with her, seen her quite a few times at different bashes like Sandsfest, and I saw her at the EXP conference. And funny enough, me, Russell Quirk, and her had a lovely time together. And it was a great... yeah, it was good.
How eclectic. Here we go. There you go. And we've got good morning from Agency with Adam. I reckon that's Adam Mackay, if I'm not mistaken.
Of course it is.
Is it Mackay or Mackay?
Let's call him Mackay, because isn't that out of porridge? So we can do all those.
Mr. Mackay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
He's a good lad. Obviously, I do have a lot of time. I suppose this is really bad if we don't say when somebody comes up that we like them. That says a lot, doesn't it? If we don't give them a shout.
We like everybody that takes time out their Sunday morning to comment and interact with us. Genuinely, now I know how the DJs feel when they go, shout out to our listeners. But it is nice, isn't it?
It is good. Yeah. Well, as we've said, it's the only interactive podcast that matters.
Okay, I'm going to tee up a piece for Mr. Whale to talk about, but I want to give a trigger warning to all those people out there. It does, I'm afraid, include the logo of the HMRC. Here we go.
Yeah, so if you're careful. Well, look.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, so this is our little bounce around the top stories of the week, isn't it? And I thought it was quite interesting again. I've had a chat with quite a few people like Amy from Smart Compliance and everything else. And the problem we hear from a lot of our clients, especially in RAN, that they're holding themselves to a higher standard. And what they get pissed off about is that they know of other agents that just aren't doing, whether that's AML or they're not sticking to other compliance-based rules. And the challenge is that the public aren't hearing enough of the bad story, if that makes sense. So there's this kind of concept of rogue agents. But I just looked at this story and I chucked what you're looking at. I mean, look at it rolling through. The people who have been obviously fined, and look at all those no appeal there.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and I have to tell you, look, I've just come fresh off listening to a podcast about Donald Trump and ICE agents, and I'm not necessarily making the direct comparison, but there is this sort of if you talk to accountants and people within the accounting community at the moment, they will tell you not to bother appealing most things with the HMRC because it's not worth the trouble. There seems to be.
That's like me with the missus. I don't bother anymore. There's no point.
But look at this list; it just goes on and on and on and on.
As long as I'm sorry if anybody's on here who was watching, who's highlighted, but it's not us. It's the HMRC. You're dealing with the man.
Well, I'm going through it fairly quickly, but I'm doing that only just to show you.
You're not even halfway through.
Absolutely nutty. But look at the fines running down this column over here. Substantial.
Yeah, you won't know this. You won't know this. I think there's 150 in there. You won't know this, but there's this thing called AI that I've come live to recently. So I whacked it in, and as long as it wasn't hallucinating, I think that's over the course of a year. I think it's of the year before last. It's over 5 million quid worth in fines, isn't it? Now, on the one hand, you don't want, obviously, that tagging an industry and everybody getting, tarred with the same brush. On the other hand, it's really important, isn't it, that messaging does get out to, gets out to the public that they need to be dealing with somebody who's doing everything absolutely kosher for fear of, obviously, being caught out like that.
Do you think, I mean, look, all of these stories are, you mentioned one of the suppliers earlier. They will obviously, I'm not saying weaponize these stories, but they'll use it as proof, won't they? That there is a danger to not following up and not having all the correct procedures in place and not having the right maybe guarantees or insurance in place and all that sort of stuff. But to the members of the public, does it do, highlighting these stories from within our industry? Does it do anything other than sort of reinforce, actually? So I don't think by going out there and saying, look, by the way, here's a handful of agents locally who've done the wrong thing. I don't think that makes the seller say, oh, well, no, David's the best of a bad bunch. I think it makes the seller go away thinking, Yeah, they're a bunch of wrong'uns.
No, this is all about. This isn't about, as you said, dobbing them in. Although there is a helpline. This is about showing why you do the stuff you do, and I like the idea about doing a lot of the stuff up front to say, look, whatever other agents do is absolutely up to them, but we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I think then it becomes, and again, all I am looking at is the story and the pitch. It's all then just about explaining why you might be why you might have a higher fee, what you're going to do, why you've got the team, all these different elements that they might think, why do I have to go through these hoops? It's explaining that in context, isn't it? Isn't that the important part of it?
I think it is. I just think that I as an agent, I wouldn't waste my time with it. Only because
this is the problem with a state agency.
No, honestly, because I think, look, you've got a limited amount of time when you're in that room. If you are sat in that room, if that person has trusted you enough to invite you into their home, you're there already for a reason. You don't invite people you don't trust into your kids' bedrooms.
It's like Tinder. You don't do that.
To a certain extent. And you know what? Claire Yates spoke about this brilliantly at the Kerfuffle conference. Another one coming to an arena near you this July. But Claire talks about this sort of the unspoken trust that sort of binds the agent and the sellers in most cases. Who do you know? She asked this question, doesn't she? Who do you know that you would, after 45 minutes of meeting them, hand them the keys to your house and give them your alarm codes as well? And that is a scenario that happens more often than not in a state agency, whereas in day-to-day life you wouldn't do it. So all I'm trying to say is, look, if I'm lucky enough to be invited into your living room to give you advice on how to sell your house and how I'm going to help you through that journey, I don't think what you want is me coming in doing a sort of a mini Esther Ranson expose on other agents that are not following procedures and protocol. I will just talk about how we do, and I think we need to. I think what we need to do is normalize AML as much as possible, rather than weaponize it as scare the living shit out of people.
Okay, so because I mean, I am all over compliance catnip, don't you? I always phone you up and ask for my little dose a day of catnip and everything else. And so the top story, incidentally, that was the top story in Pie this week, just to show how this is. I might not find it interesting, but obviously, clearly, lots of people do. But the other top story, one of the top stories in the Negotiator as well was, and I wouldn't normally bring this up, but it's because it's people that I absolutely adore, I'm going to. And it was a Welsh property transaction dubbed a world first. I assume maybe that's where Matt's on his way back from. Good luck, by the way, Matt, if you're in the car on the way back, thinking your signal's going to hold out. But it was this story, and I'll just read it to you. A collaboration between Dawson's estate agents, Desres Software, and the property business Credus is said to be a first in compliance and digital IDs in transactions. They're claiming to be part of a world-first collaborative approach in the UK industry designed to make the home moving process simpler, smoother, and more certain for buyers and sellers. Desres and Credus are completed the very first live property transaction using Credus property compliance wallets, an apparent world-first innovation in digital identity and legal compliance. Now, just to, again, be absolutely shameless, this was the Credus guys did a fantastic, and I did
presentation.
They did it. We were thinking about, is this going to work? They did a 10-minute really punchy one, and it was one of the most highly reviewed ones on the day. Which we spoke about there. Sometimes you feel a little bit, events and conferences. Oh God, are you getting too salesy? But done in the right way, thought leadership and punchy like that, I think it delivers. So. Joe, anyway, from Dawson's was raving about it. The wonderful and smiley Simon King from Desres Legal, who, again, I think, they won our Trusted by Agents conveyancer, didn't they? So hats off, because that's what your point was. Again, just going back to it earlier, that's the collaboration side of things, isn't it? We're all...
Yeah, no, I think all of those things benefit. If they benefit the customer and they benefit the agent, to me, that is like that makes it work, doesn't it? It really sort of it improves customer service, and it's worth the agent investing in. Keeps you out of jail if it's got a compliance angle as well, and that's always a bonus.
It's just, I mean, that's the rule by which I live each day. I don't always manage it.
Although I have heard there are conjugal visits that you can have in jail, which is more than I could say for being out of jail sometimes. So,
DM us if you're interested in that side of things. We can do that. But can I just chuck out another couple as well? So the top story in estate agencies today this week was Rightmove reported that average asking prices rising at their fastest pace in a decade. Now, you always try and trick me out like the hideous Russell Quirk and make me comment on something in the property industry statistically when, of course, I'll say like 120%. Let's see how good you are. What do you reckon the price was? It was the average asking price rose by what percent between December and January?
Well, between 1 month and another, is that what you're saying?
You're right. That's a month. Well done. Yeah.
Okay. What did I win? What did I win?
You can come to work tomorrow.
Surely it can't be any more than 10%.
Oh no! Yeah, good. I'm glad I got you. No, 2.8% in a month.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
So, average new seller price reached £368,000 and 31 pence. And it was, the largest January jump since 2015, which I thought was, again, interesting. So that was a story. Then I'm just going to finish off in property world, if that's all right, because it was quite an interesting one. You've definitely been bored by me on this one. Going back to our ongoing theme of the acceleration of mergers and acquisitions, did you see Foxtons breaking out of their London stronghold and going for Fleet Milne in Birmingham?
Into Birmingham, and I think this is a strategic move. I think they're trying to get closer to me. They've moved halfway. There's probably a little division at Foxtons thinking, next we're going to have Mintzy's territory. We're coming for him.
Make Mintzy happen. Make Mintzy great again.
I think it is interesting, and it's whether or not the rest of everybody is familiar with Foxtons, aren't they? They almost become this kind of stereotype for estate agents in London, the branded minis, etc., and the flashy offices, and the type of people that they employ, and maybe the type of tactics that they employ as well. It's whether the rest of the UK, sleepy little provincial towns, are ready for that impact. But Birmingham's not sleepy, is it?
Do you remember me telling one of my Uncle Albert War stories when I went into probably doing one of the worst pitches I've ever done, trying to convince Foxtons to move away from their in-house boss system? And it was when our good friend and indeed our CTO, Mr. Matt Goddard, was there as head of suppliers. He didn't have any more hair back then, but that's irrelevant to the story. But I do like to get that dig in every time I do. Anyway, he was talking about, I tried to sell him the software, and as you know, I never really knew what it did anyway. And every single second he said, oh no, our system does that, it does that. 10 minutes in, he kind of got bored of this, and I was starting to sweat like those people off the Harry Enfield Dragon's Den. The people there, and he said, shall I show you what we've got? And he took us into their war room, and he showed this amazing kind of like map of the country where they've got the offices overlaid with like households, and it's just brilliant, all that sort of stuff. And I asked them the question, I think this was shortly after their foray over into the States, which obviously didn't go well. But I asked, why hadn't they broken out of essentially the M25? And he made the quite reasonable assumption there that if you look at the data, places like Croydon have, almost over, I don't know, I can't remember now, whether there's over 1 million people or a million households or whatever, which was broadly speaking similar to central Birmingham at the time. So their rationale, as I understood it, was to nail down that London market before breaking out. But they've obviously broken out into Reading just recently as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
A great agency around there. And so I think that's quite an interesting one, isn't it?
I think it is, and it'd be interesting to have a look and see whether over the past 10 years, and I believe it's probably true, the sort of Foxtons model and the ethos has changed ever so slightly. I don't know if there's if they are a more kinder, caring version.
I think Guy's who's heading it up there. I know Peter Rawlings really, really rates him. I've always found him very, very impressive for me. Is obviously his Chesterton's days. You've got Fran Gilatano, who obviously sits with us on the Agents Giving board as well. She's perfect, absolutely there. So I think a lot of people, good people over there.
I think it feeds very nicely into what we're about to talk about, because Foxtons as a caricature of traditional high street agency,
Yeah.
Versus a new brand, a new bold world of self-employed.
Yeah. And so we said we were going to do this last week, weren't we? Because we thought we should probably actually have a theme running through our shows rather than you and me.
We should start talking about it now before we start losing more people by you reading out the news, is what I'm saying.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about property on property. Anyway, yeah. We were talking about the end last week, and look, we wanted to obviously, and we're going to focus obviously on the self-employed model, but I think we can broaden it as well for anyone who wants to talk about models in general and how the industry's changing. And I think what this is really, really important we kick off with at the beginning. I'm going to call this the Adam Day rules of debate. So we're not going to come out here. We're not going to start having a pop at any particular demographic of the industry, aren't we? We're all going to try and be balanced. We're not having a shot at, as some people, Russell, wink, wink, and others have when they've launched their alternative models, whether that's online agency or whatever, have gone out there and just absolutely kiboshed and ruined the traditional agents, haven't they? And the thing I've always loved about Adam Day, as I've said many, many times, and Verona does this recently, they're not coming out. They've got the confidence these days that actually they just know that their model is working very well for them and for their people, and that there's a space for it. And I think that's probably the right positioning before.
So can I offer a reason? Can I offer a reason why? And I just want to make a very early differentiation between this word. Back in the day, when we were talking about online agencies, you were mostly talking about one particular purple one, which obviously invested a lot of money. I don't know anybody in UK property that has done more than those two brothers to invest into hacking into the British psyche when it comes to estate agents and undermining the traditional estate agency role. Now, we've talked about it.
As the marketers and PR would call it, disruption.
But we've spoken about it many times, and I will give them the credit that I think they're due. I think that move actually made the rest of us talk about agency more and improve agency more. We realized that we could no longer rely on, we're a traditional high street agent, and we've got a caliber and a pedigree. We've been here for X many years, and so therefore I'm guaranteed your business. No, we're not, and we need to actually sing for our supper. We need to prove to you as members of the public why you're worth trusting us over a cheaper online model. Now, since then, fast forward, you had Russell Quirk's gang, Emu, for instance, were in that bucket. What I will say about all the online agencies of their day is that what they had going for them was a little bit of technical innovation, i.e. you could book viewings online, etc. But as we all know, the overall quality of those estate agency services were shite. And that's a technical surveying term, I'm sorry, but any estate agent that's listening to this and had to progress sales at that time with an online estate agent in the chain, you know how difficult that would be. Things just the lack of accountability and so on. So I don't think they did themselves any favors in the long run. I'd like to make that distinction between online agency and self-employed models, because I don't think online and self-employed are in any way connected whatsoever.
Well, that's interesting. So, as usual, I'm going to tell you to stick that up your bottom. So, I've got I don't know whether there's a theory here. Is obviously they've still got huge market share, especially since Purple Bricksport strike and everything else. Yes, it's come off from its peak, clearly there. But is the I'll just posit this back to you from the beginning there. Is the personal agent model a direct derivation of the online model? And what I mean by that is, you know, that obviously different technologies change and adopt as they go. Famously, the first wave very rarely works, doesn't it? So do you think the likes of these other models is a direct reaction?
I think, and this is why I think the confusion arises. I think two things. One, which I think is a total red herring, is the lack of a physical office presence in some cases, right? And that now isn't necessarily a hard and fast rule, and we'll talk about that later, because we do know some high street agents that are part of that self-employed model and have physical high street premises. So I think that's part of it. I think yes, the personal agent works, but I think I think also in the day and age of rising social media influencers, I think the issue of personal brand actually is more responsible for the rise of a personal agent rather than the online model necessarily. So I think what we're doing is look, your choice as an estate agency owner very much used to be, I'm going to take David on. He's a bright young chap. I'm going to train him up, teach him everything I know, and then when David's capable enough and learnt his craft, he's probably going to go and borrow a load of money from his uncle and set up his own estate agency and go on his own, and then you lose them forever. And people were worried about that. So you were worried about how much do you trust people, how much do you invest in your key members of staff, what can you do to retain them, and I think personal brand also is I think a lot of agency owners feel like that might be a threat to their overall brand. So Simon is a great negotiator. Is the Simon Whale brand becoming bigger than Repeat, for argument's sake?
And it's like just on that one, that's really easy, isn't it? I think the company brands are getting much better at blending and accommodating personal brands there. And although there might be that perception about, what if we build up their brand, their personal brand too much that they'll go elsewhere? Well, I think, basically they'll go if you don't do that, won't they? Because some people do want to have that. And it's right for the business and for you anyway. So I don't think really, if we're still having that argument, that feels like the old, will Facebook or social media win you any business?
Well, it does. I caught a discussion between Simon King and Chris Watkin on his sofa recently about self-employed models. And Simon does talk about that, that you're going to lose, you're going to leak talent effectively once you've built somebody up, and they're going to be going off on their own, and how do you as business owners cope with that, and whether or not this actual sort of a hybrid almost between owning an agency and self-employed is the way forward.
But don't you think as well, you and I speak to a huge amount of obviously agents, and although they won't be saying it out loud because they don't want to be seen to be disrupting or cannibalizing the own model of traditional agency, so many of those traditional agencies are looking at how they could extend the personal agent model and blend it into their own, aren't they? So I think that's a dynamic that is without a shadow of a doubt happening, whether we like it or not.
I think there's also, that whole brokerage model in Australia and also in the States, where you build up a massive top line brand, which provides an umbrella of quality and services to that agent. And then the agent is free to go and do whatever they need to under those brand guidelines. And you could argue, and I would argue, that really self-employed agency is just a micro model of franchising, which has been alive and well in this country for many, many years.
And we've always been very slow at doing franchising. Famously, there's the likes of obviously the Winkwers have been around for ages, and Property Franchise Group has grown out there. But the Australians, the Americans in particular, have always had a much higher propensity of franchising over there. It's interesting because obviously, that concept you're talking about there, just to throw in the acronym as we all like to, it's the EBU, it's the Effective Business Unit, isn't it? So you're quite right. Some of the brands we used to deal with, top-end brands like Marshall White, we know the O'Brien lads. We've had Dean O'Brien on our podcast, haven't we? And other certain lunatics there who shall remain nameless as well, who big shout out to you, Hutch. And you're quite right. And what's difficult there, isn't it? They do spend a lot of time, obviously, building that corporate brand, and they defend them very effectively. But the minute you've got that effective business unit, you can have very different levels and quality and styles of service depending on what that business owner and their effective business unit deliver. And I think you just got to take that on the chin, haven't you? That's one of the realities of the situation.
No, I think you're 100% right. Let's just park that for a minute. Let's just run through some of the comments. We can give people a chance to give their perspective.
Because we believe that people have a voice.
We do. We're famously, we're the only podcast that listens to anybody else's voice except for our own.
We do that when we've run out of ideas ourselves.
That's and it's proven very successful. Here we go. Christian Byfield, good morning to you, my big Viking friend. Different models appear to different folks. To our model is better than yours is so boring. The latest online to have a pop was Hello Neighbor the other day. It's like they want to fight as they print this PR dirge in the industry press. I think they do.
You know what's impressive there, by the way? Yeah. I didn't even know he'd have a signal, because he's over in Greenland, isn't he, famously as a Viking, waiting for Trump to try and invade.
Repatriating his family to his homeland. Here we go. Models learn from each other. PB drivers shift in attitudes to tech, which I think is true. I think that's the one good thing they actually did give us. And giving the customer more control and autonomy. Long way to go, but it is evolving. And he goes on to say, because he's not very shy about voicing his opinion, the personal model to me just removes the middleman in agency. Shops aren't essential. That's not unique to personal agents, but a shift in consumer behavior. This removes the swathes of mid-management that burden a business. EXP avoids marketing spend to earn money on a tech stack and training community delivery. Successful people in this get rid of office costs and middle management and pocket the difference. It's both simple and genius with a clear benefit at both ends.
And that's coming from a traditional owner. So obviously he's about as untraditional a traditional owner can be. But I think that's a very fair and balanced approach, isn't it, to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Agency with Adam. There are few that know more about who will extol the virtues of EXP more than Adam. So here we go. Morning, Adam. Nice to have you with us. Love the personal agent phrase rather than self-employed. I think it explains the model better. So I think with the words personal agent, I think what you're also doing is it's almost like that very cuddly bespoke concierge service for a seller. You feel like you're getting taken care of. Somebody's going to give you a big cuddle, and I think that's also nice as well.
When we first heard the phrase, just to prove that there are no new ideas. But the phrase where I came across it, and I would have to go back and figure out how long ago this was when we were at Repeat. Kevin Hollingrake, I think I was right, was one of the first, if not the first, when he was at Hunters, to launch the personal agent model. From memory again, I think there was about 20 of them. Hilariously, because of course, why it's working now as well with tech, with the likes of Zoom and everything else. We can now be in office, in the room with people in a much better way. They were dialing in off Nokia phones. Literally, I think it took the diary 7 minutes to load to try and. So, but what's fascinating is that people have been thinking about it. Famously, what we know, and we won't go into too much detail, but they get fantastic deals on fixed costs. The portals do have a really good model with those guys. That was very clearly my understanding of why Hunters looked at that originally, was to try and break that office-based pricing model.
We're going to skip to that in the comments in a minute. Let's just work through it. Byfield again, back over to Bible. Totally agree with Mintzy. Micro franchises, brilliant. Adam, exactly. I feel brokerages with strong brand and personal agents supported is the future. I feel most agents need two things: support or leads. Most want both. The brokerage model can supply both.
Just can I just talk to you? I don't know whether I come as a consumer or what, which side of the angle I come from here. Let's just say I'm bi.
Here you go. This is the bit where he pretends he's not involved in the property industry.
Well, you robbed me of. I was going to say I was a bit bi, but I think look, when you hear the word brokerage, does it make you like?
Do you know what it instantly makes me feel? Mitchell Murray gave you these leads. God damn it! It puts me into Glengarry Glen Ross straight away. And that, actually, that's that. If you look at that play, and it's brilliant, by the way. But if you read that play,
put the coffee down.
It all, yeah, exactly. Coffees for closers, but it's not just that old kind of pastiche salesperson type thing. It's talking about, if you realize the gold in that whole episode, in that whole play, are the leads. That's what they're talking about. The quality of the leads. I was given crap leads. You've got the good leads. If I only had those leads, then I could close them. And people are actually stealing the leads. That's what happens in this. They break into an office at night to steal the leads away. And that's how valuable that they are. So I think actually it hits the nail on the head. It's not, maybe that's not written by an estate agent, but where the leads are the golden agency. I think that's absolutely true.
Shall we just jump back? Because I think that obviously being able to, again, all the marketing and everything else they do there is fantastic. But should we drive back into just the basis here? Why, obviously, I think Adam, actually, I'll say I don't know it. I spoke to him just last week. And Adam obviously was very proud that they've just broken through 900 agents, I think, which obviously, again, I'm sure it was only a couple of years I caught up with them and they were about 450. So look, the direction of travel is fantastic and everything else there. And you let's just say you are starting up today to tomorrow, and I think we've already had this conversation, so it's a bit of a loaded question. But what would be the things that appeal to you about the Yopa model, the EXP model, or feel free to break it down or just go generic into it. But what would be the things that you would weigh up and say, okay, well, that's it.
This is a great question, and by the way, I'm mindful that there's lots and lots of comments here that we need to work through, but and we will get to them. But just to answer that question, I think Adam once again hit the nail on the head. You want support, so you need to have something. I think Ian Dobrin, Hunters were the very first, but famously had to foreclose on their own model at some point. But I think it's a lower cost, it's a lower barrier of entry. So if I wanted to join and I'm going to be quite honest, I've had discussions with certain personal brands, if you like, just to see how their models work. And it's relatively inexpensive. So let's just use EXP for example. I think if you could borrow $2,000 from your granny just to get you off the ground, and you've got a bit of a personality and a mobile phone, you're up on your way. So what do I get? I get my portal, so I get the right move. I get a fantastic CRM. So a lot of the EXP agents will rave about they're using Loop.
Mr. Bevan's Loop, isn't it? Yeah.
Mr. Bevan's crew. They seem to be doing a good job there. You've got that interconnectedness between the agents to a certain level, because Loop is able to basically, so if I've got a lead here, this side of town, I can whack it over to you on the other. And so, like, for me, it's the setup cost. It's a really low barrier to entry into that market. And actually, I think and here's the truth, and I don't want to insult any of our EXP listeners out there. I actually don't think that to the customers in the marketplace, EXP means anything. So to an average home seller here, I don't think they know.
even though they've got this now massive market share, and I think they were talking about it again, they've gone through it. You think actually that a bit like Rightmove, wasn't it? It was clearly dominant before it then truly with Ian Wright hit the brand recognition. You think there's still a bounce to come from the public actually getting EXP are the biggest?
And I think that should scare traditional agents, chill them down to the bone today, because what Kim will talk about, and I'm going to just flash some Watkins stats on stage right now, because this is scary for a traditional agent to see this. Watkins has spoken for years now about the rise of the EXP models of personal agents and the market share that they've got, and the fact that how many sales they're handling and exactly how much business is flowing through their books. But what we haven't spoken about is how effective it might be. So here we go from Mr. Watkins himself. Self-employed agents outperform the market. They are, according to stats that he is garnering together off 20 EA's system, comparing self-employed models since I think the beginning of 2025. They are 12% more likely to sell your home. They will sell your home 23 days quicker and sell your home for an average of £5,400 more.
So you've got a triple lock. You've got a triple lock there of stats, haven't you?
So it's interesting. We're now not talking. So when I say that I don't think the public are aware of who EXP are, I am not saying that they're not effective. I am not saying that the public are not benefiting from them. What I'm saying is it's the personal agent that they're going after. It doesn't really matter to a certain extent what the three letters are underneath that agent's name and what brand they're with.
I disagree with you there, because I think you are right before. I think what's the terrifying thing is, as that brand starts to become, it takes such a long time to get a brand, but once that brand starts to embed itself as well, coupled with it, I think that's where I would be getting more worried about it if I was a competitor in any of these marketplaces.
I'm gonna just head to the comments for a bit, because if we don't clear them, we'll never get through them. But Charlotte Jeffrey Campbell, hello.
The doyen of training and development.
My favorite trainer. I say that to all the trainers, obviously. I think traditional agency now defines a skill set rather than a business structure. And that's why online and hybrid are such outdated terms, as non-people focused agency model is not what the consumer wants. So I think that's largely speaking true.
Just before you bounce off that, I'd like to throw this back to you, Charlotte, if you're still on there. I have got a theory, because Charlotte is actually one of the few remaining trainers in this industry, in an industry where we keep getting told all the time that people come first and we believe in training and development. It's amazing how few there actually are left. And I don't know whether that's because there is so much access and resource you can get online now these days. I think that's definitely a concept. But I do think that the people, if you are willing to spend time and money yourself, and with this personal agent model, you're the recipient of that. You get an ROI yourself. I do see a lot of these EXP agents, these personal agents now, going to a lot of training courses and conferences and things to improve themselves directly, because. So it'll be interesting to understand whether she thinks that is a good thing from the perspective that they do have that concept of wanting to be coached.
Well, we'll talk about that, because I think if you look at what were you getting with a franchise, you were getting very strict brand guidelines, what you could do and what you couldn't do. There was also that element that you would get centralized training, so there was a standardization of service offering and also education across the network. So I think if you were to look at traditional franchises, it very much needed the training to be in place. Otherwise, you can't control what goes on in that brand. So if I was, Adam Day, I would want all of my agents to learn similar methods and to learn from the best. And I think if you don't train them, then you're not going to get that. And I know that, there's investment in training going on there. Christian Byfield, the biggest test will be a property crash or transactional crash. That will test the model from a frontline perspective when there's little or no income. So that's the other side of this personal model. All these agents who would normally be have jobs in branch What will they do when the market crashes? But I would argue, Christian, these are the people that would be fired. Normally, when the market crashes, agencies then make redundancies.
I have zero concern on that, and because I think it would make you more robust and resilient anyway, because your cost base is at a such better place. Secondly, you joked about at our conference, always willing to throw the odd hand grenade. Obviously, the lifestyle of a personal agent and everything else.
Yeah.
The work-life balance and everything else. Well, that's
Go
true.
And get your kids from school.
And again, I go back to that comment. When was it? Earlier in the month, and I said when we jumped off the plane in, I think it was in San Francisco, and we got picked up going to the estate agency conference there, and it was by a realtor who was the Uber driver. So you can be. Life will find a way. I think is never more true than with this model.
I think that's the other end of it. So when I look at what happens in America. Every man and his dog has a realtor license. So you're an Uber driver and you're a realtor and you're a hairdresser and you're a realtor. But I'd argue that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you're a hairdresser, you're going to see loads of people in the local community, and many of them will say, yeah, how are things going? Yeah, we've been clearing out mum's house this weekend. We're going to have to put it on the market. Hey, by the way, after I've done your blue rinse, I'll come round and value it for you. Here we go. Charlotte Jeffrey Campbell, someone that's not quite ready for a blue rinse yet. I ran a national network, home worker network for Pattinson's in 2001, but it failed as the tech wasn't around. We published ads in the Yellow Pages back in them days. Yeah. I think tech makes this a heck of a lot easier.
Do you know you just said there about Purple Bricks, and who was it, Christian, again, talking about the tech that worked with Purple Bricks, and it did, I always said, I think that perversely, in many ways, it was really, really good for traditional agency. They were forced to actually get very good at communicating the value that they did. It also shook them outside of their comfort zone, because we used to have the concept, when we were at Repeat, years before it was fashionable. We had landlord logins, tenant portals, vendor portals, all that side of things. And so many people for years, and yes, it was probably down to my poor ability to sell, have no interest in it because we're a personal business, but the tech wasn't really quite there. Then, of course, everybody stopped going into banks, and it was seen as, actually self-service was seen as a positive rather than I'm forcing you to do that. And again, then suddenly it becomes magic.
Can I just say there's nothing wrong with this man's ability to sell. He constantly dumbs it down, but that's the greatest trick the devil ever pulled, was convincing you he wasn't really a threat. Okay, here we go. Donna Vincent, estate agent. Hey, Donna. The shift in the way companies work since COVID, where lots of people are working from home, has helped, I believe, with self-employed agents without high street offices. So yeah, I think it gives you that flexibility, doesn't it, to like me, work from home in your pajamas occasionally, which is good. Liberty Blue, estate agents. Good morning, Liberty Blue.
That's it. That's Regina's.
There we go. We've recently taken on a highly regarded agent in Waterford on a self-employed model. She works for herself, but not by herself. She loves the infrastructure and support that we give her, and ultimately, she is her own boss, but without the burden of all the business headaches and costs. It's a real win-win. We do a revenue split on all the listings that she serves up. And there she is, Regina. There we go. Ian Dobrin. In 10 years, there will be 5 to 10. Is that 10,000?
I'm assuming he's saying 5,000 rather than just 5 people, because that's quite a wide range.
Maybe a lot. Can we say a lot? There'll be a lot. In 10 years, there'll be a lot of self-employed brokers in the UK. We are just going the way of the US, in his personal opinion. And the biggest worry is not everyone is okay to run their own business, and support is vital to survive. So I would make that. I would agree with Ian on that. I think that certain self-employed models or personal agent models offer better support than others. And I think that support, to me, so you asked me, why would I do that as an agent? Why would I set up with them? I'd set up because the monthly costs are low and I would not have this raging overhead to worry about, but I would also pick it based on training, support, and tech.
But that comes back the other way, doesn't it? If you're the sort of person like me that needs to have everything just presented to them on the plate, and I'm assuming that comment about not everyone running their own business is a dig at me, but I would want to have a really managed service. But my understanding is with a lot of these models, especially with the XP and that they aren't very dictatorial. Yes, they have you've got to have a centralized CRM. That's a no-brainer. But other than that, there's a lot of flexibility to pick and choose the tech stack or the suppliers that work from you, because lots of these people were, not to go all out Alan Partridge, but stop telling me what to do. It was very much that kind of thing. And when I was at that first EXP conference, and I've been lucky enough now to do a couple of their bashes, what came across was when they were interviewing the likes of Sam on stage, Alex Pelosi is obviously fantastic there. These people who have obviously done that journey from the independence thing, they've sat there and listened to what others have told them, and it has been a case of they've been doing it for the man, they've worked for the other owners and everything else. And so it's so liberating then to be able to get out here and do all this stuff yourself, especially, and I'm not going to get into it, you can tell me because I don't understand it, but that whole wonderful capped element of it, that once you get to that certain level, you keep the lion's share of it yourself. I mean, that is surely that's the secret sauce of one of these businesses.
The crowning, the capping. It's interesting, that whole, and that's the other side of this whole model, is that an EXP do this better, I think, than probably all the others, because you don't hear the others necessarily. But I think, how can you tell who's a vegetarian or a vegan? Don't worry, they're going to tell you. How do you know somebody is a self-employed agent? Don't worry, they're going to tell you that they can pick up their kids from school and they still get to keep 70% of their commission. So I think there's an element of this, and we touched on this last week, and I've said it and I'll say it again. I think that we see a lot of, not all of them, but a lot of self-employed personal brand agents on social media going on and on and on and on about why people should be joining their brand, rather than talking about their customers and the houses that they're selling. Now, Donna, for instance, who's here, is very different. But what I'm saying is there are a lot of people out there who are doing that constantly. And I would argue, are they earning, therefore, because with a multi-level marketing type scheme, you are a lot of money by bringing other people into that network. So something that was said to me recently is, look, if you're a fairly well-connected guy and you know quite a few people, you join a network like that, and if you can influence other people to come on board, you don't need to sell as many houses as you think, because you can effectively earn off the back of those referrals coming in, which I think is very interesting how that model works.
I'm trying to remember, and apologies, Sean, if I've got this wrong, but I'm sure when I spoke to Sean Newman, who's got, obviously, is it the Property Experts one? Yeah. I'm sure he was saying he's more in a recruitment role now than he is obviously in there. I think that's, that being able to blend. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because those are two industries that actually have had very close relationships. You've seen a lot of people bounce between them, talking to, funny enough, the recruiters. There is a lot of crossover there and similarity with sales roles.
Yeah. Famously, if you have a look at EXP, I think when you look at what Watkins says about them and what other people say about them, they'll say that they spend very little on external marketing, because it's the word of mouth within the network that does it. It's the agents themselves, and that's part of the whole magic.
So let me ask you this question again. So you've got Mintzy Estates, and you've got and your USP has always been you've never once turned up on time to evaluation, and that's why people should come to you. But when you're there,
Mintzy by nature,
when you're in the room, you're the best. Now, let's say Mintzy Estates has 3 offices. Obviously, one of the biggest challenges you found in the past, obviously, is that there has been no ability to evolve from that model very easily. You could take it down to a hub, I suppose, and probably do it. One of the things that, as I understand it, I don't think I'm wrong. I think Adam was one of the first, if not the first, in XP to do this. They are now starting to accommodate and give that ability for traditional agencies to come into the model and still to ostensibly trade under their own brand. Now, I apologise, 55 minutes in or whatever we are now for using the banned phrase, but that is a bit of a game changer, isn't it, in terms of the model?
I need a klaxon to a game changer. Yeah,
I'll get the missus in.
Morning, Rachel. So I think, look, I think you're right, and I think that, you know, I've seen that with, for instance, Benjamin Stevens. We talked about that last week. Steve Wayne, great brand, really well known, as embedded in a community as an agency can be. You know, he does all those up and down the high street with his dogs, talking to shop owners, all of that sort of social media stuff. He is the archetypal
digital mayor.
Digital mayor, exactly. Now, when you combine that with the EXP model, what you're getting is a business that has got substantially lower overheads, but still has all the benefits of that kind of high street model. Let's just race through the comments, because I think there's a lot more that we need to get into, and I'm conscious of time.
Rinse these people.
Vincento, Donna, I'm an EXP agent, and I agree. My clients don't know what EXP is, but they know me through recommendations, social media, and agency boards, etc. That's all that matters. Christian Byfield, EXP have definitely built the impression, at least, of more of a community. The other brands in this space, you only hear from the owners and leaders, but EXP has an array of high-profile agents and talks of collaboration. However, EXP means nothing to the British public in much the same way that they don't see TPFG behind the brands of Connell's Countryside and the other 50 brands. So I think that's
the only thing I disagree with him on there, and I think I agree with the vast majority of that, but of course EXP is still a top brand in its own right, whereas Connell's and Countrywide very famously went deliberately for whatever it is, the 50, 80 sub-brands of, you know, whatever it is, Gascoigne, Howman and all of those, Sharman, Quinney and the likes of that. So that was a very deliberate strategy to retain the goodwill of those brands, whereas EXP still is going to be a unifying brand at some level, isn't it? So there's no confusion there, I don't think. Sorry, go on. I'll jump on after.
Good morning, Nick. I personally feel that the self-employed agent model is the future of this industry, especially for those agents willing to work hard, especially in the early years, to make it work. However, I do feel that too many lazy agents see it as a get-rich-quick scheme, expecting to do very little and get paid loads for it. Self-employed.
That's the world of prop tech you're thinking about.
There's always room for you in the world of prop tech. Self-employed takes a while to really get it off the ground. It takes hard work and time. The luxury of free time doesn't come overnight, as some people sell it. I do feel the barrier for entry for self-employed needs to be. There's a comment, the piece of the comment here missing, and I'll try and go to Facebook to get it. But that's interesting, isn't it? I think he's probably right. So all of those. You know, we did very famously make fun of the kind of rhetoric that you hear certain self-employed models talk about, you know, getting up early in the morning, having their ice bath, going for an ultra marathon. I'm not talking about anyone in particular here, putting on your pink hoodie, getting back out there and picking up your kids from school. That's all well and good, because that is a lifestyle choice. But what Nick is saying there, that lifestyle choice doesn't come overnight, because the other end of being self-employed means you're working your bollocks off, because you need to be in the office longer.
Just go back just a second, because I think there's something very important here as well that Donna said. Hang on a minute.
Donna.
Yeah, just that one there. So they know me through my recommendations on social media. And one thing that I think is, again, brilliant, and we're still, as you know, we're collating this data. We've got our friends there, Ian, who we work very closely with, obviously, there at Verified Trusting and at View Agents. And what we're looking at is benchmarking and looking actually, again, those stats that Chris highlighted there, that triple lock we kind of christened there. Actually, I will be very surprised if when we do the analysis, because it certainly looks like it from the early analysis we're doing, that personal agents don't commensurately get more higher rated testimonials on things like Google, Trustpilot and everything else there. So I think that's going to be a really, really interesting angle there, is if those are working for Donna, and I would imagine for everyone else there, you will be more likely to give a personal recommendation to an individual than a brand, wouldn't you? So I thought that was interesting when I just saw a point there.
I've got now the rest of Nick's comment.
Yeah.
Are you there? Rest of Nick's comment. I do feel that the barrier for a self-employed agency needs to be higher, though. Regardless, I do think this is the future of the industry. So, another one that well and truly thinks that it's there and here to stay. Charlotte, once again. We see a lot of people self-investing. And this is in answer to you, Simon, about training.
Yeah.
Our pay-as-you-go courses for individuals has grown by 80% in the last 12 months. So yes, self-investment is huge.
Good to see. And look, we say this in Australia, the biggest conference where they have 4,000 to 5,000 there. The vast majority of those people, those negs, those people in the industry property management, they're paying for it themselves. And I think that's and that's great to see.
Interesting times in the US. It does well on the fact that there's a buying and selling agent, but there's some interesting disruption happening over there in the buying agent space, questioning their value in the process. 100%. If you've been following what's going on over there with their organizations, it's huge at the moment. There's a lot of issues out there with that. You must not underestimate, as the self-employed models grow, the sense of community and belonging. And our friend, young Mr. Grace of the industry, Graham Wilson, are you being sponsored to say EXP as the third word? Next week, you'll be rebranding to Kerfuffle.
No, but I'll tell you what I will do on the back. That we are expecting some equity in this, aren't they? Because I think isn't that another angle that those guys. I don't know if do all of the different models do it, but certainly with the Kerfuffle there. You can actually if you deliver, you actually get value.
You get a piece of the pie, don't you? You get a piece of the pie.
Just because Graham was obviously, I think that fella used to be in the industry, didn't he? I mean, he certainly turns up to everything.
Graham, yeah, no. I look, for the first couple of years, I thought that he was a waiter working at the Grosvenor Hotel because he was there all the time. But actually, it turns out he does actually work in the industry.
Well, I heard. Come on.
Let me ask a question to Graham as an agency owner, and also all the other agency owners that haven't yet gone self-employed here. What is, ladies and gentlemen, your profit margin on an average sale? And what I mean for that is, are you in effect earning any more than, say, Adam Day is earning off the back of an EXP agent when they take their cut? Are you earning 50% of a sales transaction after you've cut your overheads out of the question and all your tech? Or in effect, are we all sliding towards that? Well, it's in the 20 to 30% range, so we may as well look at the self-employed model, because it will actually, with the recent employment changes in terms of national insurance, etc., it makes far more sense to put people on a self-employed basis. So is that the story of a state agency? Is it the fact that our profit margins aren't exactly what they used to be, and actually we're now closer to the brokerage model than we ever were?
Well, without doubt, if you look at maybe the structural reason driving this as well, is that Chris has been doing a really good job and stopping everybody talking ourselves into recession, and he keeps publishing obviously the 20A stats about how how many listings and sales there's obviously been. And I don't know what people are predicting again this year, but if it's going to be more than 1 million, probably 1.2 million again there. So the issue isn't around the number of listings, is it? That's not it. But the pressure, I would suggest, on fees. I was speaking about, in this local area here, as you know, Mintzy, Didsbury, the Kensington to the north, very salubrious, and the high street agents are competing at 0.7%. Now, so there's a the famously you've got to obviously, so even though the transactions there, if you're getting less, then there's a problem. The thing that I think has been instrumental that maybe that first iteration of the online agents got wrong is it didn't have to just be cheap. Verona has made this point time and time again, I love. And I love that, seeing some of the amazing agents we've had on here, and we've spoken about Katie Poole there before. These people really value what they do. They almost come at it as probably as well. Look, that's, the Aussies manage this. We can only manage so many properties. So if you want me to look after your property, and I'll do the best job for it, you need to pay me a commensurate fee. I think that's a really compelling pitch from both sides.
I think it is. And I recently heard somebody from a very well-known self-employed brand that I'm not allowed to mention again, but they are making a drive for those agents to charge higher fees. They do not want their agents to go in there and discount the fees, because it just doesn't make sense either for the agent or for the model. It does no good for the industry as well as a whole, as we've seen in the long run. All we end up doing is educating the public that you can have top flight agents for next to nothing.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Watkin, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Watkin, in case you missed it earlier, we did give you full credit for your fantastic stats that you've provided us today. But Mr. Watkin is saying, don't forget that the average number of homes sold per month per self-employed model in 2025 is 1.39 homes per month, based on a combined total of the three largest self-employed models.
Yeah, so, well, now he's here, I can do the other drum he's been banging. As we said, we were going to look at different models, and the idea that the online agency model has completely failed is, of course, completely erroneous. Because once again, Chris, looking at the stats and turning them from data into information, has now been banging the drum that if you as a lettings agent haven't got a strategy for dealing with open rent, then you are missing a trick. And Chris, please jump in here, because again, I'll misquote it. But the market share that those guys have is absolutely stunning, isn't it? And they have really, really made a case for actually having delivered on that online model, at least on the letting side of the business.
They've sort of cut through, haven't they, between an agent managed model to giving the owner effectively self-serve agency.
But Chris keeps making the point as well. What percentage of those are moving? That they are losing from the traditional agents as well. So I think it's.
But I'd argue that when things are good, then that's great. But when things go tits up, you want a proper agent advising you.
The only problem I've got with that, David, is, on their own website and, on the review sites, they make the point that 8.2 million tenants and landlords love open rent. Now, I'm not being funny. Okay, there was a problem with the other, Purple Bricks in the early days had incredible Trustpilot reviews, and that then kind of, because they obviously got the review at the listing stage, didn't they, when everyone's happy, and it kind of changed there. But with that kind of endorsement from the public, have they really got much to worry about?
Here we go. Christopher Watkin. Open rent have 18% of the UK rental market. The worst bit is 51% of every new listing that comes on in the last 3 years was previously on the market with a high street agent.
Look at that. What's your strategy there? I mean, that's one we need to look at in the future, isn't it? What is your strategy?
And that's next week's episode. Nailed down. We'll be talking to lettings agents next week, where we're looking into the number of landlords leaving the market this year, with all the sort of different changes and the renters' rights and all of that. How is that affecting your businesses? But more importantly, is there something else going on here in the industry that we need to worry about? Hang on. Christian Byfield, profit margins in agency have always been far lower than public expectation. Industry average around 16%, which is why we're so exposed to market shift. As a general rule, to achieve 20% plus in the service sector is good. It's also about growth, scale, and ambitions. Our profit margins at base are substantially above industry norms, in part because we're not constantly chasing growth. Interesting.
No, you know what you're chasing? You're chasing Esther's awards, aren't you? You massive awards.
We know what he's chasing. That building. Did you know that building has had to be underpinned to support the massive weight of all those Esther's awards that he hawks around?
I thought you were going to say that was about me walking in the place there. Then for a minute. Hey, Josh.
Oh, Brenda Repeat. Hello, Joshua. Renters' Right Act should help move more market share from open agent to professional agents, but there's likely a lag until landlords feel the pain from non-compliance fines. Good agents will be getting ahead of this. Well, there you go.
You know, I know, again, I'm biased and Graham's going to have a pop at me, but the stuff that Repeat was sharing with us last week, David, weren't they, around that and everything else, is they are really turning out some great stuff about it.
I think so. I think if I could give a shout out to a couple of suppliers that I think are doing particularly good work, not necessarily in just buy our product, but actually in education. I think that people like Repeat are doing great stuff, but also people like Good Lord as well. There's an awful lot of great thought leadership, education. They're really investing in that. And by the way, we should all be paying attention because that helps to retain clients. It adds value. Yep. And I think it's very attractive as an agent when you're looking at people and where to put your money. I also want to put my money with an expert in much the same way that you want to employ an agent who is a local expert. I'd want to employ a supplier that is an expert in that arena, or at least has access to that.
And can I just say, David, I love an attractive agent. And before people start writing in, I don't care if it's men or women. It's just the rest I have a problem with.
Christopher Watkin, the number of rental properties in the UK is actually growing, not dropping. As many agents think it's dropping, but it's not. They're just leaving letting agents. Interesting.
He's good.
Interesting. That is interesting.
Can I just say, for somebody who I love Sharon Carter. Sharon Carter is probably the only other person that swears more than me in this industry, which is saying something which I do love.
I love Sharon Carter because she cannot help but say what she means, and I think we need more of that kind of in agency as a whole.
But landlords have no filter group.
But landlords have this idea that if they had no problems when using an agent, that it's easy, so that they then have a great seamless experience with an agent, and then they trot off to open rent, and they can have a few good years of tenancies, and then it goes to shit. And then they trot back with the tails between their legs. In the meantime, lettings agents need to educate landlords exactly what goes into maintaining a good tenancy, the ones that they perceive as easy.
Do you know what I love about? You know what little bit I love about that, Mintzy? That's where you have to bite your tongue and I don't say I told you so.
But there's an awful lot of that, and I think that sometimes providing somebody with an excellent service can also and if you're quiet and if you don't touch base with your clients, and so here's another thing, and little nugget, I suppose. We try
That's
to.
Your name for me, isn't it? Little nugget.
My little nugget, my little golden nugget. But I think that if we are trying to educate for many years sales agents to keep in touch with their clients when they're not transacting with them. So I've already sold you a house, but I keep in touch with you. I let you know how the market's going. I say hi from time to time. I care about the anniversaries. I ask you how your kids are getting on in the school that they moved to. Whether the house is big enough, small enough, if you have any aspirations of moving, but can I help you in any way? Just generally caring and keeping in touch. I think also that there is a cohort of lettings agents who, when they're doing a fantastic job and they can be the best managing agents in the world, but they're not putting in necessarily the time on speaking to current customers and telling them all the work that goes into that service that they're providing. And that doesn't mean boring them the whole time or scaring them the whole time. It means occasionally checking in with them and saying, hey, Simon, you're getting your payments on time. That's all good. Tenant's nice and happy. I just want to let you know some of the 12 things we've had to do in the last 2 weeks to keep it that way. And I think in that way, the agent's conveying the value to the owner. And so the owner's not getting the impression that actually this agent's not doing very much for for whatever it is, 10 to 18% in London management fee that they're charging.
you're just talking about there about obviously boring us and them and everything else. Do you know what I absolutely love about you and me here? The optimum time, David. Do you know what the optimum time for a podcast is?
Is it Sunday morning at 10:30?
Oh, you're so good. 27 minutes. And here we are at 1 hour 13. Laughing.
Keep in the comments.
Face. We just laugh in the face. We're not like anything else. We break rules. We don't play by them.
We do not. Well, we're going to have to let everybody go, but we'll cover these last few comments and maybe. And
then I just wanted to just give a last shout out at the end. So just run.
Okay, cool. So Sharon Carter anniversary cards are still valid even in today's techno world. Absolutely. Stephen Brown does that. I saw Stephen earlier this week. And he is the kind of guy that sends out thank you cards to everybody that attends one of his training sessions. He'll send you a birthday card, anniversary cards. It's great. But what he's also started doing, because it is very time consuming to sit there writing out 20 cards and sticking them in envelopes, he does now, the little video note function on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Where it brings it up in a little circle so you can record up to 60 seconds of video. Those are lovely, short, sharp, quick ways of checking in with people, and he's getting a lot of good feedback off that as well. So that's just another.
Why whenever he's been out doing training, don't you? Because we see on Kerfuffle, we get suddenly bombarded with all the notifications that Stephen Brown has got a load of reviews. That's exactly what's been happening.
It's brilliant, and that's exactly what he does in those 60 seconds. He says, "Hello, David. It was exceptional to see you last week.
I was hoping you'd do the impression.
Thank you very much for coming on Estate Agency Learning. If you wouldn't mind, could you go on Kerfuffle and give those guys a bit of a tickle?" And that's what he'll do. He'll say, "Look, leave me a review," and he's getting it, because why would you say no to such a nice person? Christianos, as agents, the challenge with being really good is that you make good look easy, especially in lettings. You have to educate your landlords on everything that you do. And next week we'll be looking at the best ways to do that. So Sharon Carter anniversary cards are still valid. Liberty Blue Regina, she says it's very enjoyable. Thank you. Our pleasure.
You're now officially our Irish ambassadors over there. So just so you know.
Great show, fellas. Mr. Brown is fabulous with his cards. It feels quite special, which is lovely. And it's nice to get a card in the post rather than a blinking bill.
Well done, Sharon, for not swearing there. That shows that we can all grow as individuals. So I wanted to just give a bit of a shout out, because I'm actually really pleased to announce as well, on top of the obviously all the other conference speakers, both Mr. Adam Day and Verona will be speaking at the Kerfuffle conference in July. So that's very interesting. But one of the things that I was quite keen to just again reach out to is all of if there are personal agents that are working on here, could you get in contact with us if you're interested to talk about the reviews and awards? Because we're working, as we said, with a project with Verified Trusted, and we want to make sure that we're looking at the ways that we can essentially do the awards for personal agents, because it's a bit harder, isn't it, David, when we're looking at this, to do it for personal agents than it is for there. And we want to just have a little group of people, if we can do, to test some of our ideas on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, anytime that you hear us reach out and ask for real agents to get involved and to give your opinion, absolutely do so, because some of the things that we go on to do with that data certainly helps suppliers get better. I think it helps the marketplace.
What's only better with Watkins joining is with Karen here. So just to put a big shout out to Karen. The full woke wave for Whaley here, Karen. Love your stuff, obviously there. So you will. I
met Karen for the first time over at Moneypenny a few months ago when we were there. A great agent, and is one of those faces now that you meet them once, and now my entire feeds are full of their stuff.
That wonderful algorithm.
Here we go. What's she saying? I look forward to the video now. We'll drop all of these listeners and all of these viewers a little video note to say thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. What you got for the rest of the day?
I have got to go and do a karate pickup now. and then I will be a taxi driver for my children for the rest of the day. So, you know, you were talking about real estate agents also being Uber drivers in America. Yeah. It's a little bit like that, actually, yeah.
So this is a great day for both me and the industry. Today's the day I get my hair cut, David. So watch and learn tomorrow morning. It's going to be
the best hair in the industry. Do you have like a specialist that comes down to cut it? Is it, you know, is it Vidal Sassoon himself?
I have a team. I have an effective business unit that work on my hair, all parts of it.
And this show has been sponsored by Tim O'Tay. Right.
The other Irish estate agent.
Tim O'Tay. Top of the morning to you again. And take care.
Thanks everyone for your comments. That's really, really good. Cheers, guys.